Welcome back. Well, as we begin this Women's Month, we are joined by the Chief of Economic Empowerment at the UN Women, Dr. Jemimah Njuki, to talk to us about the link between women's economic empowerment and the overall economic growth situation in South Africa. Very good afternoon to you, Dr. Njuki. A great pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. Let's start here. Let's talk about why women's economic empowerment is a key issue across the world in the context, of course, of sustainable development.
Thank you so much. So we know that investing in women's economic empowerment actually sets a direct path towards gender equality, poverty eradication, inclusive growth, and sustainable development. Being half of the world's population, women make enormous contributions to economies, whether in business, on firms, as entrepreneurs, or employees, or even just doing unpaid care work at home. At the same time, we know women across the globe remain disproportionately affected by poverty, discrimination, exploitation, and pervasive social norms. And these have all been further exacerbated due to COVID-19 pandemic. Our research actually shows that about 54 million women worldwide are currently out of work due to the pandemic. And one of the strategies that we're using is really to promote women's entrepreneurship so that their roles and their contribution can continue to be felt within the economy.
Yeah, let's talk about your role as UN Women and how you're working closely and specifically with the South African government to enhance preferential procurement.
First of all, I would actually like to congratulate His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa for the 40% commitment to preferential procurement. We know that legal frameworks are actually the first basis for getting women more into entrepreneurship. So we are working closely with the National Task Team, with the Women Economic Assembly to actually make sure that we translate this commitment into practical action and practical laws and procedures within procurement systems that actually support the implementation. At the same time, we are working with the private sector, so on the buy side, to really improve their capacity to source from women-owned businesses. During COVID, we've actually seen that a lot of the women-owned businesses that have been connected to gender-responsive procurement opportunities within the supply chain were actually much more resilient than those that were not. So we are working with private sector companies to make sure that they can source from women-owned businesses, but also more importantly, that they can source from businesses that are promoting the empowerment of women. And through that, we can actually reach more women because these businesses then will have better policies, no discrimination for women, give women dignified jobs.
Yeah, and some of the suggestions that have been put forward, one being, of course, that 40% to implement a 40% preferential procurement for women-owned businesses. Let's talk about how that's being received, as the first part of my question, but how it would then benefit, and obviously it goes with our conversation, how it would then benefit South Africa to implement this 40% owned, this 40% preferential procurement for women.
So let's go back to the evidence that we have. We know that 1 out of 3 businesses are owned by women. Yeah, we know the global procurement spend is about $1 trillion around the world. It contributes 15 to 30% of GDP, but only 1% of that actually goes to women-owned businesses. In South Africa, about 9% of the spend on procurement goes to women-owned businesses. So you can see the huge potential here, even just from reaching parity from that 9% to 50% of procurement spend by women. So what does this mean for women-owned businesses? It means that these women-owned businesses get out of being in the informal sector. As you see, even when we say 1 out of 3 businesses are owned by women, a lot of these are informal sector. They are small. They have no access to finance. So this 40% procurement, preferential treatment for procurement actually ensures that government, private sector, others, whether it's provincial governments, national governments, government agencies, can actually start procuring from women-owned businesses. This ensures that the businesses grow, that they are more resilient, that they continue to employ more women. But even more importantly, we will start seeing women enter more into what we call the high growth sectors.
Yeah.
So we'll see more women in sectors like construction, sectors like transportation that have been male dominated. And this is where, as UN Women, we are actually working with the government, we are working with private sector to make sure that we capacitate women, we build the capacity of women to actually take advantage of these preferential procurement in these sectors where they have traditionally been underrepresented.
All right, Dr. Jemimah, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you very much for giving us your time, but also the work certainly that UN Women is doing in terms of supporting women in general. Thank you so much.